Next is Car Security Diary, our connected vehicle journey with Alina Tan, Edmund Lim, and Tan Pei Su from the Division Zero Car Security Quarter. Following up from their previous presentation on building a prototype automotive security test bench, they'll talk about connected vehicle technology and protocols beyond the CAN bus.
Hi everyone, my name is Alina, and today together with my teammates, Edmund and Pei Su, we'll be talking about the Car Security Diaries, our connected vehicle journey. So unfortunately, Pei Su's webcam is faulty, so later you will hear her voice. And this is Pei Su, as of now. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll be talking about the journey of Bench 2, and Emma will be talking about the building challenges, getting into the infotainment system, and Pacey will be talking about the features versus vulnerabilities and the summary of our learnings. Okay, so basically you can't see our faces here anymore because it will cover a part of the slide. But here's a happy picture of us and together with Javier, which is the tallest guy over here. Okay, so again, my name is Alina, and Pace is over here, as you can see from my mouse, and Edmund is over here. And together, we are representing the Car Security Quarter. So CSQ has a total of about 20 plus members, and we are part of a wider cybersecurity community here in Singapore called Division Zero. CSQ also powers the Automotive Security Research Group here in Singapore called the ASRG SIN chapter. Automotive Security Research Group is based in Stuttgart, Germany. And the goals of the Car Security Quarter is to basically facilitate and promote automotive cybersecurity awareness to the community here in Singapore. We want to actually empower like-minded security enthusiasts in gaining hands-on experiences. So over here in the picture, as you can see, we have about 10 of us working on the vehicular test bench, which is our test bench 1. And ultimately, we want to use all of this research to actually contribute to the automotive security in the industry through community engagement and also the building of our test benches. Right, so let's begin about the journey of our bench 2. Okay, so previously from bench 1, we actually mentioned that bench 2 will feature a connected vehicle sort of test bench. So over here, I brought out our previous roadmap. As you can see that we were actually planning for prototype 2 at that point of time, which will actually feature connected vehicles functionality, which will be categorized under the SAE levels 1 and 2. So basically the SAE level 1 and 2 is sort of like partial driver assistance systems such as ADAS. So over here you can see ADAS means Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, where you also have your adaptive cruise control and stuff. So we wanted to work towards more of a connected vehicle sort of environment to get the group going. And then ultimately we want to move towards autonomous vehicles. So over here, as you can see from the left picture, we have our CSQ bench 1, whereby it's just a few components, 4 different components of the vehicle in fact. And for the CSQ bench 2, we actually have much more components, even though you just see that there's only the infotainment system and the cluster meter over here at the top, but we actually have much more components at the lower layers of the bench itself, which I'll go through a little bit more later. Okay, so the inspiration of our bench 2 is that we were actually inspired by KeenLab's CVE findings announced in Black Hat US in 2019. Since there was already a known finding, we wanted to actually utilize that to allow us to understand different vehicle protocols and the infotainment systems. So as opposed to our previous bench 1, there isn't any infotainment system over there because the vehicle is too old. So this environment itself will actually help us to understand more vehicular protocols. So the infotainment system is actually vastly different compared to the traditional CAN bus, as there are actually different protocols present such as MOS and Ethernet. So MOS means Media Oriented Systems Transport Protocol, which we'll touch a bit more later. And over here, one unique component that we have that we don't see in the bench 1 is the central gateway module. So the central gateway has many other different protocols such as the FlexRay, FlexWave bus, which is the high-speed critical bus used in more high-end vehicle models, and the LIN bus, which is local interconnect network, and various different sorts of CAN bus over here. You have the powertrain CAN, PT CAN, K CAN, and chassis CAN, which I'll talk a bit more later. Okay, so for the vehicular protocol introductions, like I mentioned earlier, there are actually different protocols within the central gateway module. There are also different variations of CAN bus that controls different functions within the vehicle. So first up, the central gateway module actually filters out some of the messages that's going through the vehicular system. So it acts as a firewall component to say. So as for the PT CAN bus, the powertrain CAN, it actually controls different units and modules associated with the powertrain. So powertrain, like your critical system, such as your brakes, your transmission, or your gearbox systems are considered as powertrain. And as well as your chassis CAN. Chassis CAN features the controls over modules, sensors and actuators, for example, your power steering. And for KCAN, similar to other CAN buses, it's actually a two-wire body bus that controls modules, sensors, and actuators. So over here, we have a diagram which is not similar to our vehicular architecture, but it gives a good breakdown on how the different CAN buses are actually connected to the central gateway module. As you can see over here, the central gateway module is actually connected to the cluster meter as well as the OBD2 diagnostic CAN. And in that, you have your body CAN bus, which is connected to your driver door ECU, keyless entry, so on and so forth. And then your chassis CAN, your all-wheel drive system, power steering module, and then your powertrain CAN, your transmission systems, your headlamps, and comfort CAN, which is not present in this particular vehicular model that we're working on, is for the HVAC, and then the camera ECU. So all of these are actually connected to the infotainment system over here as well. But this is just a sample diagram. It's not, but it shows a good breakdown on how the CAN bus should actually work in a regular vehicle. Okay, so the journey of bench 2 on how we actually build that bench is we actually have a pretty tight budget because CSQ is actually non-profit. So in order to actually understand these protocols, we actually have to build the test bench through like choosing critical components to build upon. So one of the major components that we need to purchase in this case is the central gateway module, the infotainment unit, and the telematics. We also added a few more items such as the cluster meter and the DDE. So the DDE is a diesel digital electronics module that is facilitating the ignition module of this vehicle. So there are actually 3 different layers to simulate the previous architecture with some additional components. So layer 1, we have like our infotainment unit, our central gateway module, our DDE. Layer 2, we have our cluster meter, telematics module. And finally, layer 3, we have the screens and everything wired up. So what you don't really see over here is the wirings. They are actually carefully hidden beneath the vehicular test bench itself. And then we also have our central control module over here that actually navigates to different controls of the vehicle itself. Yeah, so moving on, Edmund will actually speak a little bit more about our different building challenges and how we actually overcome them.
Thank you, Alina. So I'll be talking about some of the challenges we face while building the bench 2. As we're getting the parts second-hand from various places, we have to research into which parts work for the model that we are going to zone in and build. So actually a big chunk of time was spent looking for the ranging diagrams and making sure the parts source will fit and are able to communicate with each other. So when the parts arrive, we wired up everything, then proceeded to power up the bench. However, we noticed that the cluster and infotainment system does not have any display shown. So we went back to research and realized that we're actually waiting for a pickup signal from the car access control module before they start up. We had to simulate this signal, and after sending the CAN message into the bus, the bench finally powered up. From the left picture, the CAN dial shows the CAN signal that we are constantly sending. And same with the vehicle spy, you can see the HS CAN 130 on the CAN bus. However, there's another problem. So as soon as we power up the bench, we notice that there are no other signals present on the OBD2 port. So this tells us that the OBD2 port has actually been hardened, and we had to perform a man in the middle to read or inject CAN messages into the network. From the wiring diagram, we then located the points we want to read and inject the CAN bus from, and as expected, we got CAN message activity coming from both the infotainment unit and the instrument cluster, as shown in the bottom right picture. After much experimentation, we learned that the central gateway is filtering out messages to and from the OBD2 port, and only allowed the wake-up signal to be captured. Performing man-in-the-middle gave us access to inject whatever messages we want into the test bench, and we got some interesting results to show for it. For example, the animal collision detection and human collision detection displays on the instrument cluster, shown in the pictures below. After parsing and identifying CAN messages, we were able to replay the same message into an actual vehicle system. So the videos on the left show spoofing of speedometer in the vehicle, where we can clear the speedometer to the maximum speed. And on the right video, we can actually make the cluster flicker and go crazy with the LEDs. Getting into the infotainment system. Following the KidMaps document, it was mentioned readily that the infotainment system can be assigned to an IP address of 192.168.0.1. However, they never explicitly mentioned how this can be done. So we realized that actually an internal DHCP server has to be set to provide an IP address to the infotainment system. In this screenshot, you can see that after setting up a DHCP server, the MAC address of the infotainment is reflected on the interface with an assigned IP of 192.168.0.51. This allowed us to do an initial scan on the infotainment system. Using nmaps, you can see that there were several open ports, like port 6801 and 6811, which is used for the OBD2 to internet access by the central gateway module. We are also able to look into the HTTP port as seen on the right screenshot. At this point, we need more time to research into what we can do with the port service we have discovered, and if there are more information to be gathered. So the most cable actually came a little late than expected. After connecting the most cable to the instrument cluster, we observed that quite a few sensor availability was transmitted from the most protocol to the instrument cluster. So shown in the right screenshot, you can see several sensors such as ABS, a red brake telltale, check engine light, and seat belt is on, as compared to the left when the most cable is not connected. So next, I'll pass on the rest of the presentation to Tracy to talk about features versus vulnerabilities.
Thank you, Lina and Edmund. Hi, I'm Pei and I'll be presenting from here on. So let's talk about features versus vulnerabilities. From the very beginning, when we started on our research, we always looked at potential attack vectors, potential areas of intrusion. The deeper into the research we went, the more we started thinking about, hey, how could this potentially impact the users, right? Because from our standpoint, we're just technically security researchers. We just wanted to test out the features of the vehicles in a safe and controlled environment. But when you put it into the context of regular users, like, just drivers on the road,
this very same set of features that you're testing, this could potentially turn into a double-edged sword and place lives in danger when they're repurposed for a malicious intent. So one great example of this actually is the series of attacks targeting a 2014 Jeep Cherokee. If you haven't already, do check it out. Essentially, what happened was that two automotive researchers were in control of the Jeep remotely, and they were able to do a variety of attacks, such as killing the engine or disabling the brakes. If you think about it, if you look at the research itself, these were all made possible due to vulnerabilities in the infotainment system. And the features that they went after, this is the very same set of features that we use when we drive. So there wasn't anything special about the features that they went after. Rather, it was something that we were all using. Yeah. So this is actually what we kept in mind from the very beginning until now. So let me go through the summary of our learnings from Bench 2. Okay, so our very first learning is actually that the CAN wake-up signal is needed for the infotainment system. This wasn't actually really stated in like any documentations. We had to probe around quite a bit to find out about this. Our first bench didn't have this like we didn't encounter this issue. So when we actually did encounter this issue, we were actually pretty worried that we got a piece of junk. We accidentally paid for a piece of junk and we weren't getting our money's worth, like essentially. But we did see that it was being powered on. Like we kind of saw initially we didn't even see the voltage stabilizing. It was constantly fluctuating, which was a big problem. And eventually, after poking around online a bit, we got more parts, and we also saw that we actually needed a CAN wake up signal. And that essentially was our very first step. Right. So that was like one part down. It was a huge relief when we all saw it happen because we finally saw the screen turn on. And now we know that we didn't actually get a piece of junk. So yeah. So for our second learning and challenges, we learned that the central gateway module was able to filter out CAN messages and prevent connectivity to the infotainment system thanks to that. So we found this out because we wanted to be able to access the infotainment system via the USB port, the physical USB port on the car itself. And you pretty much think that when you plug something in, it's plug and play, you'll be able to work directly, right? No, we're pretty much mistaken about that. So we had to cycle through 5 to 6 different USB to Ethernet adapters. And my God, that was a huge pain. Like we went through so much just for that. Turns out only a very specific chipset would cause the infotainment system to respond to it and give us the desired output that we were looking for. And even then, after we got the adapter, right, we still had quite a bit of like manual configuration to do, like setting up a DHCP server, assigning the IP address manually, and it had to be pretty specific. So it's 192.168.0.1, and a bit like a couple of other configurations later, here we are. And that's what you see from the screenshot itself. And at the same time, if you did an nmap scan, if you did an aggressive nmap scan, right? Oh, we sat there for so long. I don't suggest you do that on a regular basis. It's it's the most time-consuming thing ever. Please don't ever do this if you're doing like a recon on normally. It's really noisy. Yeah, we did it for this particular car, and we saw that port 80 was open and port 6801 was open. So yeah, there was that. The summary of what we learned from bench 2 was that the MOST protocol allows some sensor signals to be transmitted to the cluster meter. A CAN wake-up signal is required for the infotainment system. Without it, you're most probably going to end up like us questioning like, what have I done wrong? And have I been scammed? You know, did I buy a piece of dead metal or plastic? So yeah, you most probably did not buy, you most probably did not get scammed, but you most probably just needed a wake-up signal. And lastly, the central gateway module filters out CAN messages and prevents connectivity to the infotainment web server itself. Feel free to approach us or talk to us over in the Discord server if you have any queries, or if you want to listen to us talk about how much pain we went through just for this. My God, we we are so not triggered, but like we're quite traumatized from this entire. It was fun, but would I go through the experience of looking through 5 to 6 USB to Ethernet adapters and scrolling through mindlessly on so many car hacking forums, or yeah, mostly a lot of forums? I would do it again, but that was a huge pain though. Especially at like 1, 2 a.m. where Alina would be sending us like so many articles or links to some weird website where we had to translate it because it wasn't in English. And yeah, that's like a whole new world by itself. CSQ has always been and will always be a continuous effort, and our main goal has always been to understand vehicle architectures better. In order to do so, we must be able to build more benches so that we are able to experiment with them hands-on, and we are able to learn better that way also. And at the same time, we are also going to continue our research with our 2 existing benches, because we haven't really, I don't think we've actually fully utilized them. You know, we might actually find something that we never knew might have existed, right? So it's always a continuous effort in that sense. And these tests that we're conducting, you know, they range from remote attacks to key fault infotainment, ECU testing, and side channel attacks. So there's no limits. We are still going to go on doing what we're doing, and yeah, we're gonna see how far we can take it. And eventually you want to be able to progress towards autonomous vehicles also. That's our eventual goal, since AV is actually a really big thing, and it'd be a really, really fun area for us to explore. So if there's anyone who's willing to sponsor us, do drop us an email. So we've actually come to the end of our presentation. We hope you've enjoyed whatever we've presented about just now, and we hope that you actually learned something at the same time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us over in the Discord server. We are Car Security Quarter Kampong. And a huge shout out and thank you to Emil for having us at SINCON 2020. And we hope to see everyone at next year's SINCON in person. So thank you.